This episode of Arrays of Living explores the unwanted state of accountability. Accountability, such a dirty word, isn't it? Merriam-Webster defines accountability as an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. So it's all about taking ownership for your actions, for what you do in this world. If one of the tools we have over the course of our lifetime is to assess our options and make choices in the form of a decision, then how can that not come with the reality of accountability? They go hand in hand, do they not? You're encouraged to listen to the episode Decision Making Beast, because it gets to the lowdown on the front end decision capability of us as humans. We continue in that discussion today. We talk about taking ownership of the decision and actions we make or choose not to make. We still hold the accountability for those. So if we are accountable to do something or do nothing, why would we choose the latter, especially in cases where doing something can move our life positively forward and has no harm to others? And no harm to others is really important to call out for the simple reason that I certainly never wish to see or hear someone say, Jenn told me to take action, and that encouraged me to act on harmful thoughts for myself or others. No. I do not wish my name associated with that. Anytime I speak, it is about doing positive. It's about servicing in a very positive ways. I do not support negativity. I do not embellish negativity in my life or in the life of others. So we are not talking about acting on thoughts to harm anyone, including yourself. I don't subscribe to self-harm or the harming of others. So no, I'm not telling you to go and rob a bank or hurt another human being or animal. First of all, those actions only work to take you on a path that will be more difficult than the one you are currently on. So if you are already on a difficult path, why make it more difficult? Like Malcolm X, and I've read that book more than once, seen the movies, it may eventually lead to your life legacy. But what a way to go. And why go that route if there are other routes available to you to positively move your life forward? And at times, these harmful paths, in fact, put shackles on your life if you are caught. So why add this aspect to your life? This has been a little bit of a diversion, but I think it was an important one, and certainly one I feel is necessary to restate every now and then, and to remind everyone that I primarily stand for nonviolent living, pacifism, spirituality, focusing on what you need. Using primarily is to acknowledge there are situations that could lead to violence, which our laws do cover. They really do. So live a law-abiding life. That is the diverted message. Now, getting back on track, when you are an accountable person, you are someone who is attentive to what you do and how you do what you do. Essentially, you care. And because of that caring, you are willing to accept both the consequences and the rewards that result from your actions. Now, listening to this, some of you will be thinking, isn't everyone like that? Sadly, no. And in fact, it feels like any sense of accountability is on a decline overall. Hence the titling of this episode, The Unwanted State of Accountability. I'm not saying that it is. It feels that way. And what helps those feelings along is bad press and general media sensation, whereby accountability seems to be an afterthought of bad publicity, which makes sense on one level. But on other levels, it leaves us wondering, where it was when the person was getting into the situation in the first place. Now, we are human. Hey, human, we are imperfect beings. And sometimes we make the worst decisions, or sometimes we're in the wrong place wrong place at the wrong time, and so on. Sometimes it's the right place at the wrong time. It goes all over the place. That's what makes life amazing. That's why we get enthused about living our life, right? It is not the same. However, I am not trying to be judgmental, but some press conferences, not all, some, leave us with these head on the side wonders. Like, what were you thinking? What was going on in your head when this was all coming about? At what point do you get your back to the wall and say no more? And the current trend is to blame someone for our situations. It really is. Our parents, siblings, teachers, neighbors, government, bosses, friends, family, anyone. Anyone. And for sure, at times, we are handed a lump of coal, for sure. The good news is, as adults, we don't have to accept the coal. And if we hold one from childhood, again, as adults, we can decide to throw it away for something else. Think of that. You can throw it away and grab something else to replace that coal. And in those actions, we are accountable for the consequences if we do. We're accountable if we hold on to the coal and blame. We're accountable if we throw it away, grab something else. We are accountable. And we have choices. We always have choices. Even when the choices are difficult, they are still choices. Now, across my corporate management consulting career, seems a long time ago, but it is there. Of course, across that career, I have had to address instilling accountability frameworks. And the reaction to that word is consistently one of discomfort, much like the word change, right? The change word also instills discomfort. And what are we discomforted about? About actually saying, oh, wow, let me look at the possibilities when it's related to change. Or, oh, wow, let me be very clear about the scope of my authority, the scope of what I can and cannot do, and what the cascading consequences could be. And do I really accept those consequences? Am I okay with those consequences? That's what the word accountability brings for us. When I'm talking in a corporate setting, the targeted audience I'm literally talking to sits on pins and needles until they come to understand the power that comes with knowing the actual sandbox you are playing in, along with who is playing within and alongside you. And the scope of everyone's responsibilities and the clarity of what one will answer to and what one will not have to answer to. Imagine those lines drawn in the sand. That should give you excitement. It should really give you a sense of relief. It should take a load off your shoulders. And many times we discover that someone is currently holding a ball they do not have to hold and have no authority for. And again, that's gratifying. That's something to be enthused about. What? You mean I was doing that and I didn't have to and I'm not responsible for that? Somebody else is? Well, hand them that responsibility. Hand it to them. Here's your responsibility. You look after that. Here's what I look after. Or when you have conversations and somebody tries to hand you their shit, or literally, you can say, no, that's not within the scope of my authority. And here's why. And have that clarity. That's amazing. Many times these extra tasks are why people are overworked. And then you get overworked, underpaid. Putting clarity to one's scope of authority reduces burden and it fairly equalizes responsibility. What a thought. Wow. Equality, equalizing responsibility, not just gender things, not just skin color things, not just biases. Wow. Equalizing responsibility. What a thought. Now, while that is in corporate settings, the same holds true in our personal lives. It really, really does, right? All these things can be applied to our personal lives. Think of a cheating partner getting caught, seeing the hurt their actions delivered, and has regrets. Okay. But where was the forethought of being the deliverer of that hurt when you were with the other person? Will you now accept the consequences of the discovery of infidelity? Cheating was a choice and a decision to partake in hurtful behaviors, hurtful to yourself, your family, especially your partner. You own that. If I were doing it, I own it. If the actions are mine, I own it. I own that. You own that if the actions are yours. We are accountable. Whether we want to accept that, whether we want to protest, whether we want to shout and have a tantrum about it, we are accountable. Another situation, think of the parents that go all out for their children in a way that skews to what degree they are going over and above what is needed to parent a child. Think about those situations. How many of us have done that, are guilty of doing that? Hand raised. I started out that way. But here's the thing. According to our laws, parents are accountable for the basic needs of their children. That includes food, clothing, housing, medical care, and education. That accountability includes a financial duty to support their children until a prescribed age. Obviously, if children have a roof over their heads, available food, clothes on their back, they get medical attention when they need it, and are being schooled in some way, they are being financially supported. So yes, the financial piece is there for sure, but it's in everything that you do. It is also obvious that fulfilling your parental obligation will look very different depending upon the economic stability of the parents, right? If you're richer, the more affluent your children's clothes, food, surroundings. The more impoverished you are, the more humble will be the things your children are exposed to, which includes the same basic needs of clothes, food, housing. These are obvious things. So where we falter is in providing our children with a sense of entitlement to substantially more than the basic needs. No different to carrying more balls in the ear than necessary in the corporate setting. Same thing. We do the same when parenting, and we do the same in our day-to-day life. Today's parents feel less than when hardship hits, and they can no longer provide over-the-top extras for their children. I went through that situation. I get it. Think of this, the themed birthday parties, the iPads and iPhones, the bubble teas, all over-the-top indulgences that are not necessary. Beyond health, a parent who provides mac and cheese for dinner is still providing food. And yes, you need to give your child a shirt to wear. However, it does not have to be a Gucci shirt or a Prada shirt or a Calvin Klein shirt. It just needs to be a shirt. When we know our scope of accountability, we can breathe so much easier. Imagine taking the weight off. When our kids know our scope of accountability, guess what? They seek to know it for themselves. And they also become aware of your propensity for doing more than you are required to. And they become appreciative of the up-leveling afforded them, including any extracurricular activities, Nintendos, MacBooks. You get the picture. All unnecessary, albeit very nice, extras for parenting a child. And the same excess tasks are seen even between partners. Our spouse does the heavy lifting of financing, while another does the heavy lifting of household chores. A lot changes when we have accountability discussions. These things start to better equalize so that should something unforeseen occur with one partner, the other can more easily pick up the pieces and continue forward. And they don't have to feel completely inept and unprepared and out of the loop and in the dark around something they should probably have been better aware of. The change could be as simple as having accountability to discuss, review things quarterly with each other. It doesn't have to be every day, it doesn't have to be weekly, but set some consistent checkpoints to say, here's where we are. Not just when you decide you want to up-level your home, not just to decide when you want to buy an expensive car. Do it on a regular basis. And many times, the routine of life takes over. It literally takes over. And each day moves into the other. And we are running with more balls in the air than we need to in both our personal and professional lives. So imagine this. You're at work and the balls are going and you're lifting more than you need to. You go home and the balls are going and you're lifting more than you need to. Talk about spreading thin. And then we have the nerve to wonder why aches, pains, and disease sets in. We wonder why our bodies start to break down. And then we end up calling that breakdown as the aging process. Another language for blaming something instead of what it probably really is. A buildup of stress-filled, crazy living. And our bodies are crying out for attention to get it to stop. Get us to stop and make changes in our lives. When we start to consider how all these things tie together, we really must say thank you to COVID. We really must. It got us to stop. It got us to pay attention. It got us to realize the slippery and unhealthy slope we were on. It got us to push back on many things that needed to push back. It changed our dialogues. It changed our mindset. It changed our priorities. COVID changed our society in very positive ways. It ignited our desire for something different, for different ways, for stress. I'm even having trouble saying it. For stress-free options. And again, I say, life is a journey. And along that journey, we have decisions to make every second, every minute, hour, day, month, year. What we choose to decide, we own. We are accountable for the related actions. So don't get into this unwanted state of accountability. Don't push back on accountability. Embrace it. Because it creates clarity. It creates stress-free living. It takes a burden off your shoulders. That is why I am supportive of society's obligation to step in and make sure some life options are made safe for someone choosing those options. That's what the laws do. That's when we have certain people going after certain things, the environment, all these sort of things. It's to make sure that we are held accountable. Companies put in, pesticides and all sorts of things in the water and groups going after to make us aware of it and to stop it. That's what I'm talking about when I say I'm supportive of society's obligation for all of us to come together and say, enough. We need everything to be safe. Hold ourselves, whole companies, whole our society, whole our government, whole our, justice system, whole all these systems that are there to keep us safe, hold them all accountable, including ourselves. So don't push back on accountability and say it's unwanted. Ask yourself, how can I become more accountable? How can I know what my sandbox looks like? Who is in it? Who's playing in it with me? How do I know if I'm taking on lifting a ball in the air that I don't need to lift because somebody else already has that responsibility? And in lifting that ball, I'm letting that person relax more when probably they should be up to the speed to help me out. After all, and decided upon our options, we are all accountable. And in the same manner, the person offering and delivering the option becomes accountable for what they said they were going to deliver and what that option would mean for each of us. So just like decision making, accountability is an outcome of making decisions. Offering options, the outcome of offering the option is the accountability to deliver what you said you were going to deliver, or do what you said you were going to do, or support in the manner you said you would, etc., etc., etc. Bottom line, we need to shift our perspective to that of accountability. Yes, we do. Some key questions when factoring in accountability is, if I go down the path, how am I accountable? If I decide to walk down that aisle and marry that partner, that individual, how am I accountable? How is that person accountable for being there as I walk down and waiting? That's what we need to ask ourselves. If I decide to open a business, how am I accountable? If I decide to have children, how am I accountable? If I decide to take that job, how am I accountable? In choosing this behavior, let me say that again. In choosing this behavior, where does the accountabilities lie? In advancing this relationship, how can we best divide our responsibilities with accountability in mind? Hopefully, you can now see how powerful accountable thinking can be. And in typical fashion, if you need help with any of that, reach out using the links in the description. Thank you for listening to this episode of Arrays of Living. And please be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You will also find in the description below my email address should you want to reach out, and I am happy if you do. And just to be sure, it's Jenn at youareworthmore.co, and worth more you definitely are. And lastly, also see the link that will allow you to schedule a meet and greet with me. And that's an opportunity for me to meet you and you to meet me, and for us to have a chat. And that would be wonderful and welcoming. So please hit the link and let's set up a meet and greet.